From the Good Shepherd Auditorium in Inwood, New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where you meet musicians, writers, filmmakers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome magician Harry Mandel. Harry has been performing magic most of his life, inspired by the amazing Randy of Wonderama and Mark Wilson on his magical land of Alakazam back in the early days of kids' television shows. Harry has also been intrigued by carnival hucksters and pitchmen, as well as the escape artistry of Harry Houdini. We're going to talk about his passion for magic and so much more, but first, Harry, let me welcome you to Inwood Artworks On Air. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored to be here. I really feel like I'm part of the crowd now.
Well, the crowd's very small, but you're here, and you are the crowd today. So thank you so much. No, but seriously, it's great to have you.
Thank you.
And like I was saying before, I'm just making sure you are actually here. This is not an illusion.
Yes, I'm actually here.
Okay. For those of you listening, you have to take my word for it. For those of you who saw it, it's not a hologram. It's actually him. Okay, great. Again, going back to the old days of your, like I said, I love a good origin story. Can you remember where and when you practiced your first trick and for whom?
Actually, yes. I was in the schoolyard of PS 150 after hours. Funnily enough, James Caan's younger brother, Ronnie Caan, taught me my first magic trick. He was older than I, and he would tease, some of the younger kids. And he came out with a pencil, and he said, "Hold the pencil." And he had a dollar bill in his hand, and he broke the pencil with the dollar bill. You're 7 years old. That blows your mind.
Yeah.
I later found out how to do that trick.
Well, that's encouraging. You actually,
it's written up in all the magic books.
Yeah.
But that was one of my introductions to live magic. I mean, seeing magic on TV was great, but people always accused the magicians of camera tricks and stuff like that. But this was actually live.
Yeah.
And Ronnie also taught me how to shuffle a deck of cards. Which came in handy when I was in the United States Army, because I never got roped into a poker game because nobody would trust me. So I saved a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was great, but between the ages of 7 and 11, I kept learning other magic tricks and watching, like, every Saturday there was a magician on TV, and every once in a while on Ed Sullivan you saw a magician, and my favorite was Fred Capps. He very rarely said anything, but he did crazy things. Like he would break, you can go on YouTube and see Fred Capps, Kapps, and the amazing stuff that he did. And he looked like he was having such a good time. It wasn't just like, now you see it, now you don't.
Right.
It was like he was actually enjoying what he did, and the audience went along for the ride, which has been my philosophy. When I perform, I used to headline at in Coney Island, Magic at Coney, before the pandemic, and people say, "You look like you're having fun." I go, "I don't, I'm up there having fun." And
not an illusion. I actually am having fun.
Yeah, and then the audience will enjoy it. That's fantastic. But like I said, between the ages of 7 and 11, I learned, minor tricks because I couldn't afford an illusion.
Yeah.
And stuff to do. Like I would tease my sister all the time. I would do stuff in front of her and she'd go crazy, because I wouldn't tell her how I did it. And of course,
but your parents loved that.
They as long as I wasn't beating on her, they were okay.
Did your parents encourage magic for you? They liked
no, they actually wanted me to become a lawyer, but
well, what parent doesn't want their kids?
But it's like when you're a kid, they just indulge you.
Right.
And I did try to cut my sister in half once,
but that wasn't a trick.
No, then I would have had two half sisters, and my parents wouldn't have liked that at all.
No, not at all.
No.
But go on, kind of what you said earlier, in a way too. It's like what I love about watching magic and performance, that it's a shared sense of wonder. You know, it's like, you know, the audience receives it, and then they give it back to you. You know, and
Right.
it's a reciprocal relationship.
Yeah, it's it's funny because the one of the reasons I enjoyed the amazing Randy is because he would give a wink to the audience about this is not real, that it is a trick. And at the end of all his performances, he would tell the kids when he was doing stuff in front of the kids. He did many shows for adults. He would say there is more magic in the opening of a flower than I have shown you here today. And then I knew when I was a kid that, because unfortunately there were a few kids. I was in a magic show. Excuse me. I was in a magic shop where my son was working. We were hanging out, and his 5-year-old kid comes walking in tears, and he's holding a magic wand, and he says, "I need to return this." And my son says, "Why?" He says, "It doesn't work." And I felt bad, you know. I says, "Well, I can't, ruin the illusion for the kid," and stuff like that. But I was lucky that I knew that it wasn't real, but it was entertainment, but it was amazing, and there was always a wonderment. I go to magic shows, I watch other magicians, and sometimes I know what they're doing, but I put that aside, and I just enjoy what they're doing and how they did it, and we just have that childhood enthusiasm.
Yeah. Do you have a particular fond memory of anything pre-pandemic, obviously right now, I guess,
Yeah.
but of any kind of audience interaction you've had with one of your particular practices? Your
Oh
tricks?
my God! There were so many instances where the audience was just in the right mood,
Yeah.
and everything fell into place, and things didn't fall down, and things went right.
That's part of it. And listen, I know about it here at the podcast.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but I learned a long time ago. If something goes wrong, don't let anybody know, because they think it's part of the act.
Right.
I actually fell on stage. I was, and this has never happened to me before. I did a joke that every once in a while I would look at the audience and go, "Did anybody lose a roll of $100 bills wrapped in a green rubber band out in the parking lot?" And everybody go, "Yeah, me." And I go, "Well, here's your rubber band." And I went out into the audience to give one person the rubber band. When I went back to the stage, I missed the step, and I went, boom. Ooh. I did a face full, and some people just started laughing, and some people are in shock because they thought it was part of the act. And then they realized it wasn't when two guys came from off stage to pick me up.
Oh my gosh.
But that's rare.
Yeah.
But most, things do go wrong. A friend of mine invited me to his studio, and he wanted to do some HD YouTube videos, and he said, "We'll do some stuff." And things happen, things go wrong. They don't, the tiger went crazy on Siegfried and Roy. So,
right.
So you have to be careful. It's
Sure.
not all fun and
You have to be
games.
present. I think that's the real trick, right? You have to be present.
Yeah. And I use a lot in my act. Well, not as much now, but I used to use fire in my act. And you have to be very careful, because I remember I was in a restaurant.
Oh boy!
And no, it
wasn't hibachi place, was it?
No. It wasn't. No one was in danger. It was just that I was using a different kind of paper that afternoon. It was for a corporate show.
Okay.
And I was burning something in an envelope, and the envelope started to smoke, and the smoke detector went off, and of course, but you have to be careful these days.
Right.
But a lot of times I walk in and I ask the fire marshals, "Okay, if I use an open flame for the show?" And they usually get permission.
Yeah.
Yeah,
usually. Well, those are all very memorable. Thank you for sharing those with us. But and also too, I wanted to recall one thing you said earlier too. That's you performed before us pre-pandemic too at our Culture Hub when we had our variety show there and did an act. And what I liked about your performance that it's a crafted performance to be enjoyed as theater, as entertainment. Like that's what I think is really great, and is curious. Like, and you mentioned a couple of your mentors too. Is like developing your own style. I think that is It's very key. And so I like
Yeah.
the fact that your style, correct me if I'm wrong, it's very theatrical in the
Thank
sense
you.
like you're going, you're inviting people to take part and experience. It's not just a technique of we're gonna roll off tricks A through Z. People can do that, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. But it's like you're the show, not the tricks.
Right. That's the whole thing. That's been my philosophy. That the tricks are one thing, and a lot of people, believe it or not, don't like magic. And sometimes you gotta fool them, trick them into enjoying the show.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you take them along for the ride.
Yeah.
You can't make them enjoy it, but you can try.
Yeah. Well, that's all you can do, right?
Yeah, you know, and
set the table. They have to eat off of it.
right. And the thing is, a lot of magicians do what they call sucker tricks, and they make the person that they're doing the trick for feel like an idiot. I don't like that. I like to make, like, if I'm doing a stage show, I bring up a volunteer. I make them the star of the show.
Right.
I make them do the magic. I'm just going, oh wow, that's amazing, isn't it? And stuff like that.
That's pretty. I think that's empowering, and it just builds the show, not takes away from the show. Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely. Well, like a true huckster, you've traveled far and wide and have practiced your act, like you said, from private parties, trade shows, restaurants, what have you.
Yeah, of course.
Comedy clubs, Coney Island, et cetera, so on.
Oh, yeah.
What's the lay of the land right now? Here we are in almost 2023.
It's coming back.
Yeah.
It's
Great.
coming back. A lot of my colleagues are doing trade shows again, restaurant work, birthday parties are back. Weddings are coming back in full force, bar mitzvahs, and people hire magicians for the cocktail hour, especially for the cocktail hour. And sometimes throughout the whole event, you can go from table to table. It depends on your budget and, what you want to do.
Well, and do you have any gigs lined up we can look forward to possibly direct people towards?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
I've been taking some time off, especially with the pandemic.
Yeah, sure.
And but now I'm starting to think about going back. And unfortunately, some of the venues, like Magic at Coney, which used to be basically we used to use the stage at the Freak Show at night, or we used the museum upstairs, which is a fantastic place. They're under new management, so they don't know what they want to do with the magic program yet. Right now, after it's October, the Freak Show, which would have the fire eaters, the sword swallowers, and all those guys. Hey, they're my friends. They're okay.
Hey, listen.
Some of my best friends walk on glass. It's like or on hot coals or on a bed of nails. They're like, I have some crazy friends.
It sounds like everybody in the arts I ever work with. So
Yeah, right.
but you're actually talking literally. I'm talking metaphorically.
No, I'm talking literally. Yeah,
I know you are.
And people say to me, he didn't really put a 9-inch spike up his nose, did he? I go, yes, he did.
You mean this spike right here?
Yeah.
Pulls it out of
Right.
his nose.
Or that sword's fake. I go, no, it's not. And they're sharp.
Yeah.
And so but and like I said, they started to come back, and people are going back out, and then they want to get entertained. So luckily, I'm going to wait a few months and see what's going on.
Yeah. And right now, like I say, here it is. I'm going to time stamp us here. We're in October of 2022 here, and we're heading into flu season, and it's just not the right idea. And we all know what happened in December of 2021.
I heard. It was in all the papers.
I set that one out myself, actually.
Yeah.
I was like Rip Van Winkle. I went to sleep for a while.
My God.
The point is, like, you're smart, I think, and everyone will have their time. And I feel very strongly about this, having spoken to a lot of artists, is that you're never not working. Like,
right,
the wheels are
thinking,
turning, and and maybe your signature trick is now turning into another you're not as excited about it as you once were, and you're looking on towards evolving towards something else, or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, the basic thing is to evolve, because you start getting in a rut. I have some magician friends that go, well, if it works, don't change it. But if you become bored with something, you have to change it, and you're always thinking. And then it's funny that Chris Angel used to. I've met Chris because I knew his magic teacher. We go way back. His magic teacher played Harry Houdini in the movie Ragtime.
Oh.
And actually did a real upside down straitjacket escape in the movie. But Chris would always say, because kids would come up to him and say, what's new? What's it? He says, when you go into a magic shop, he says, never ask what's new, ask what's old. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing, because I start thinking about what's something I haven't done in like a lot of years. And that'll surprise people, because between social media and YouTube and all that other stuff, the kids, it's like you can get an app that does a magic trick, or you can, or you can watch a YouTube video and they teach you how to do something that takes the mystery out of it.
You took the words out of my mouth. Right. Literally, it's like the word. They demystify the entire process,
right.
And the learning was part of the fun.
Exactly, and the other thing is, and I told this even to my own son when he was growing up and he wanted to learn magic, and he said, "Can you buy me this video?" I said, "No, but I'll buy you the book."
Right.
Because if you watch a video, you become like that person, and you do the movements and the patter exactly like that person. If you read the book, you put your own spin on it. You put your own character.
And mimicking is not learning.
Right. Yeah. So, and the thing is, I agree. Sometimes, because I've done shows and kids come up to me, where can I learn how to do this? I go to your local library. Go over to the shelf.
What's a library?
Yeah, exactly.
You mean Google?
No, forget Google. Go to your local library. Look in the book 793.8.
Right.
You'll find the magic books. Read it. If you have to read the sentence 20 times, read it, and you'll understand it.
Well, that's, by the way, great advice. Yeah. I feel you kind of segued into that, because I feel like our podcast always has some kind of like educational component to it.
Good.
And I feel, I do. I feel it's like, you can, because people do get a bug or want to try their hand, or sleight of hand, if you will, at, whatever that's currently in their crawl or fancy. And no, it takes perseverance, and, and hopefully the community, like you said, a magic teacher, a mentor,
right.
Somebody. If they are want to go on from that, library book, it's like that's a great. Let your curiosity lead
you. Exactly.
Really
it's like, well, a lot of my contemporaries and some of the people that came before me had this attitude that if somebody came up to you and said, "Teach me that trick," no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to teach you that trick. Or, how did you do that? Well, I never read the instructions, and they'd walk away.
Right.
But if a kid came up to you and said, "Wow, that was fantastic, I know how to do this and I know how to do that, and I'd really love to learn how to do that," they would take you into the corner and say, "Come here, I'll show you," because there's a difference between really wanting to know and being a wise guy about it.
Yeah. Well. You may be a wise guy, Harry, but you're not that kind of wise guy. But you're wise in years, not wise in the other way.
I try. I try.
Well, Harry, thank you so much for being here and sharing. It's like, it's hard to be on a podcast, and I would have you do some work and things like that, and show off some of your wonderful tricks. But it's hard to do that on an audio podcast.
I know.
And so we're left. Actually, just talking about it and kind of get the feel for it. But like you said, possibly in the future you'll be back at it. And again, we'd love to have you back at Inwood Artworks at some point.
Thank you.
When we same time as like everyone, I get the same questions like, when are you having another pop up? I'm like, well, it's not. Buildings just don't fall down from the sky and open themselves up to me.
No, they don't.
And we are working on it too. It's just a matter of the right time and the right circumstances with the right people.
And I'd like to leave your audience with one bit of advice. Never ask a magician how he did it. Ask him why he did it.
There you go, folks. Words to live by. So can we send them to a website or anything so they can follow more of your work?
Yeah. It's almost embarrassing. I do have a website. Of course, the 3 W's, mandelmagic.com. I haven't updated it lately.
That's okay.
Because of the pandemic. And I looked at it the other night, and I see that I do have to. So some of the pictures are not the photographs of me performing floating children, and cutting people's heads off and stuff like that. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. But nobody ever gets hurt.
All the kids get their heads back.
Yeah, they all get their heads back. If they came with one before the show, they leave with one.
Their own, though.
Their own. I don't switch them.
Okay,
no,
that's very good of you.
And that's the other thing. When I was doing kid shows, which I started to lean towards more family type entertainment, because when kid shows, the parents want a babysitter, or they would threaten their children. If you don't behave, the magician will make you disappear. I hated that. Yeah. I really, but that's another story. But I'm very seriously revamping a lot of stuff, but it has all my information at mandelmagic.com in case anybody wants to find out where they can purchase tricks or because there are a lot of kids coming up. They do get that bug, but they go to YouTube and it comes out much better if they go to an actual real brick and mortar magic shop, which they have in Midtown Manhattan. They have 2 of them now that are great.
Which ones are they?
There's Tannins, which has been around forever. I mean, they keep changing the address. They're on 45th Street now. They used to be in Times Square. Mm-hmm. And then there's a new one in the 30s called Don't Blink. It just opened up. And fantastic stuff. And the people that worked there, in the old days, I remember when I was a kid, I used to go up to Tanner's and I say, the trick where you do the disappearing hanky, how do you? And then they hand me a box, and they take my money, and that was it. Mm-hmm. These guys will teach you how to do it, and you'll learn how to do it before you walk out of the store most of the time.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
people who love magic. That's great.
Exactly, and they're proponents of the art, and they want to continue the art. And it's enjoyment, and it's fun, and you meet a lot of great people because you are in show business.
It's a community,
and I've met some famous people, and it's great, and it's fun, and a lot of them are household words.
Well, we'll leave it at that. So if you, just so you folks, listeners, you can find a link to Harry's work in the description of this episode. We'll include it so you can find you and learn more about you. And if you see him on the streets of Inwood, look the other way, please.
Yes.
Unless you might get your head taken off.
No autographs. No.
That's right. Please. Well, thank you again, Harry, for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely.
And great. Thank you.
You sure thing. So this is Inwood Artworks On Air Artist Spotlight Edition. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and magicians of all stripes that make their home here in Upper Manhattan. If you have some time right now, please show us some love and rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Many thanks to Church of Good Shepherd here for hosting us, and to Hidesites.com for uptown promotional support. You can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate or via Venmo. Be sure to follow us on social media at Inwood Artworks to keep up with all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, pop-up art galleries, and so much more. Inwood Artworks On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in the partnership with City Council. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.